Hello, I am Void Scribe. Welcome to my realm of imagination. Together, let's wander through tales born in the world of dreams. Perhaps among them you will find the one that captivates you most. If you'd like to support me in creating more unique and thrilling stories, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell so you won't miss any upcoming chapters or new tales. Please support me by following my journey on social media. All my social links are in the description. I'd really appreciate your support. Please like the video, share it with others, and let me know your thoughts and suggestions in the comments. The Hollow Veil. Detective Harris had learned to contain his reactions. 2 decades in homicide taught him to measure responses. Tonight the measure faltered. Rain slicked Larch Street while a corridor bulb hummed. The door stood ajar. Inside, the air tasted of iron and rot. The body slumped against faded wallpaper. Head tilted as if listening to a distant voice. The smile had been carved, lips shredded, gums exposed. The eyes were gone, sockets scoured smooth. Across the chest, 3 letters were incised and repeated with surgical patience. Harris ran a gloved finger along the cuts and felt the slow cruelty beneath. On the wall, 4 words bled. "The veil is open," Officer Lane whispered, that neighbors had heard pounding and then silence. No forced entry, no signs of a scuffle. The absence of resistance felt deliberate. Harris cataloged the scene: a broken camera mount, a coil of black thread, a pocket mirror wiped to a sheen on one side. Paper scraps clustered like dates crossed off on a calendar. He found a photograph with its edges burned, a face partially erased. Tucked into a cushion, a slip read, "Look beyond the face." Evidence text worked with quiet precision. Harris kept reading the carved letters A.V.L. until the sequence imprinted on him. The camera had been tampered with, memory removed. Documentation mattered to whoever had staged this. The violence here was performance as much as slaughter. Outside, rain thundered. Reporters clustered at the tape while sirens nodded in the distance. Harris sealed the corridor and recorded to his device. Victim male, 40s, facial mutilation, eyes removed. Message: "The veil is open." Ritualized staging. Camera tampered. Possible prior victims. He felt the apartment watching. In a corner, amid splintered furniture, a scrap of paper held another sentence. In fresher ink, "Look beyond the face." Harris folded the scrap into his palm as if it were a key. For an instant he saw movement at the stairwell, a blurred shape that vanished when he blinked. He told Lane to secure the stairs and search every floor. The message on the wall was part manifesto, part instruction. Someone believed in naming what they did. Someone curated the aftermath to be seen. Harris thought of victims cataloged, and of a mind methodical, enough to make ritual of removal. He had mapped rage before, but this was a taxonomy of spectacle. He stepped back and let the corridor noise press in. A drip, a radio voice, the rustle of plastic tape. The veil, if metaphor or map, had been pulled. He wanted to map motive, to unmask the author of this staging, and to close whatever door had been opened. A stage had been set. Somewhere outside the apartment, a watchful person may have been counting reactions. Harris felt the gravity of the first scene settle into him. This was invitation as much as atrocity. He understood the danger as performance, and the curtain had not yet fallen. He liked the silence after departure, the hush that settled once he slipped away from the ruin he had staged. Felt like a cathedral bell fading across an empty valley. Sirens did not matter. Boots stomping up staircases did not matter. They always arrived when he was finished, as if the city conspired to keep him invisible. He sat in a windowless room miles away, walls plastered with fragments of faces, photographs torn into halves and quarters, eyes scratched out with needlepoint precision. A small desk lamp cast yellow light over instruments, aligned like surgical tools: scalpel, shears, tweezers, thin-bladed knife. Each had been cleaned meticulously, polished until reflection seemed to ripple. He handled them with reverence. The tools were not weapons. They were keys. The veil, he thought, had to be opened carefully. The world on this side was noisy, blind, bloated with trivial masks. People walked with their lies painted across their features. Believing faces meant truth. He had learned otherwise. Remove the face and the voice collapses. Strip away the eyes and silence tells secrets. That first man had not screamed, not once. The pressure of fear had stolen his sound long before the blade did. On the desk lay a journal bound in black leather. He drew symbols slowly across its pages, repeating the letters carved into flesh. A VL, not initials, not words, but coordinates. He wrote lines connecting them, building a lattice only he understood. To him it was a map. Each victim was a mark, each mark a passage. When aligned, the veil would split, and something waiting in the hollow dark would step through. He closed the journal, slid it under a loose floorboard, and turned to the mirror propped on a chair. His reflection trembled in the glass as if the silver resisted him. He traced the edge of his cheekbone, then pressed a thumb against his own eyelid until pain sparked. He smiled, imagining the detective who had stared at his message. Harris, yes, he had read about him. A dogged man, seasoned, haunted by unsolved patterns. Perfect. Someone had to follow. Someone had to understand. Otherwise, the ritual would have no audience. He leaned close to the mirror. "Do you see yet?" he whispered, not to himself, but to the detective he believed would be listening. "Do you feel it breathing behind the skin?" In the corner of the room, a reel-to-reel recorder clicked on. A low hum filled the space. The same hum Harris had thought he imagined at the crime scene. The killer smiled wider. The sound was proof. The veil was not just metaphor. It was opening. He began preparing again. Tools in order, fresh blades ready. On the table rested another photograph, this one unburned. A woman with sharp eyes, hair tied back, unaware she had been chosen. He pressed the photo flat, whispered a phrase only he understood, and drew 3 intersecting lines across her printed face. The ritual demanded continuation. Tonight would not be quiet. Tonight, another mask would be cut away. Rain hammered the city while Harris sat alone in the precinct's evidence room. Photographs scattered before him. The carved letters stared back, more than scars, blueprints of thought. He traced the sequence in silence, drawing lines between cases shelved as unsolved. The pattern that had haunted him for years was resurfacing. Now the symbols were louder, deliberate. The recorder from the apartment had been examined. The humming sound was there, constant, mechanical yet organic, like wires straining under breath. No source could be identified. Harris replayed it again and again, convinced it carried rhythm. Lane thought exhaustion was distorting him, but Harris knew cadence when he heard it. Someone was speaking in a language without words. His phone buzzed. Another body, industrial sector. Harris grabbed his coat and drove, through streets where steam curled from drains like veins. The warehouse stank of oil and blood. A woman, throat opened with neat incision, lay beneath suspended hooks. Her eyes, too, had been removed, sockets swaddled in gauze as if embalmed. Across her chest, 3 intersecting cuts aligned to match the letters on the first victim. On the wall, a mirror, not cracked, not smeared, perfectly clean, reflecting Harris as he entered. And taped to its corner, a photograph of him, cropped from an old newspaper. The caption read, "Detective solves coldest case." His stomach nodded. The killer wasn't leaving clues. He was leaving invitations. He ordered the perimeter locked, evidence secured. But inside he felt something gnawing. Each scene was staged not for chaos, but for him. Whoever orchestrated this wanted Harris inside the ritual. And the deeper he looked, the more he feared the ritual was already inside him. Harris drove without sirens, windows fogging as city lights smeared against glass. He gripped the wheel hard, veins burning with the image taped to the warehouse mirror, his own face staring back from years past. Wife alive, daughter smiling, life untouched by violence. Whoever the killer was, he had reached inside memory, plucked it clean and hung it like bait. Harris whispered curses under his breath, yet knew fury clouded thought. And thought was all he had. The precinct conference room smelled of stale coffee. When he laid photographs across the table, the team gathered. Lane, jittery with youth. Ruiz, silent and sharp-eyed. Medical examiner Klein, who spoke of surgical precision. They argued over forensics, but Harris stayed focused on the pattern. A VL, 3 letters repeated with ritual. He remembered fragments of old cases. Mutilations dismissed as unrelated, files shoved into storage. Now the lattice formed itself like a spider web, and he felt trapped inside its geometry. "Detective?" Lane said, pointing at a blown-up shot of the warehouse victim. "There's ink beneath the cuts, under ultraviolet light." Faint strokes appeared, layered under the carved lines. Harris leaned close, not random scribbles, but musical notation, distorted, as if a score had been twisted sideways. The hum on the tapes, the rhythm, it matched the notation. A composition carved into flesh. The room fell silent. Harris ordered all past case files reopened. Every unexplained mutilation dragged back into light. He knew bureaucracy would resist, but bureaucracy had never stared into sockets scoured to bone. He left the room needing air. On the street, rain had ceased. Steam rose from manholes like ghosts. Harris lit a cigarette he no longer tasted. In the reflection of a storefront, he saw a figure across the road. A man in dark coat, hat brim low, watching. Harris blinked, stepped forward, but headlights sliced between them. When the car passed, the figure was gone. Only the reflection of Harris remained, staring at himself, the glass trembling as if it too hummed. He returned to his apartment near midnight. Shadows pooled in corners, furniture shapes warped in dim light. On the kitchen table, something waited, an envelope. No forced entry. Inside, a photograph of his daughter at age 14, years before she vanished. On the back, in blood-dark ink, "She is behind the veil." Harris's breath stopped. His daughter had never been found, presumed runaway, case unresolved. The killer knew. The killer was telling him she was part of the ritual. He dropped into a chair, hands shaking, the hum vibrating in his skull now without any machine to play it. He whispered her name, a prayer and a curse. For the first time in years, Harris felt true fear, not of the killer, but of the possibility that the message was true. From the shadows atop the old mill, the killer observed Harris. Rain had returned, tapping rhythmically on tin roofs, blending with the hum that now existed in the air itself. He adjusted the camera perched on a beam, capturing Harris's every movement. Each flicker of his expression, each tremor of his fingers, was cataloged. He smiled. Harris was perfect, desperate, brilliant, predictable. Exactly what the ritual required. He opened a small case and withdrew glass vials, filled with fluids that reflected streetlights in eerie fractured patterns. These were reminders, tokens, proof that every move Harris had made was anticipated. Each murder, each carved letter, each mirror staged meticulously for one observer, Harris. His plans had unfolded over years, and now the final act approached. He whispered low, almost inaudible, as if rehearsing for an audience beyond the veil. "You chase shadows, you become them. Only when the hunter is blind is the right complete." Meanwhile, Harris pieced together the connections. Notes in his handwriting, old case files, sketches of the lattice, they were all there, embedded into the crime scenes by the killer. It was impossible, yet undeniable. Someone had lived inside his mind, predicting, orchestrating. Lane had grown anxious, murmuring about mental strain, but Harris silenced her protests. He had learned the hard way that disbelief was lethal. Across the river, the killer prepared his descent. Black boots on rusted stairs, leather gloves tightening. The air thickened. The hum intensified, resonating with the bones of the city itself. Tonight, the ritual would require proximity. Harris must see the culmination, must witness the unveiling, must unknowingly participate in the ceremony. Back at Harris's apartment, the detective examined the envelope again. Maps, photographs, a journal of the killer's prior acts. Symbols scrawled across margins, overlapping each other, forming a lattice of inevitability. His pulse raced. Every instinct screamed retreat, but logic demanded confrontation. If he hesitated, the pattern would advance. If he moved too soon, the ritual might escape his comprehension entirely. The killer's voice echoed faintly through a cracked window, a soft rasp carried by wind. "You think you control the hunt, but the hunt controls you." Harris spun, eyes wide. Nothing, only shadows swaying with streetlight. The vials, the photographs, the mirrors, everything pointed to one inescapable truth. Tonight, the veil would split and Harris would cross into something he could never undo. A final tap at the door, soft, deliberate. Harris's hand went to the pistol. He exhaled, steadying himself. The killer was already inside, not physically, but woven into every thread of perception, guiding every heartbeat. Tonight, the game would climax, and Harris had no idea he was already a piece on the board he thought he commanded. Thanks for watching till the end and for supporting me. Even more exciting stories are coming soon. Don't miss them.